Hi, my name is Simon Hedley, known to my clients and partners as a Strategic Alchemist and an ultimate connector. I'm a chartered accountant who brings together and bridges the worlds of business philosophy, finance, marketing, optimization, ontology, and so much more. Always focused on one thing, the simple idea that can make the difference to people and projects so we can tip the scales in their favor and get them complete. Pause, Stop, Reset is all about the three little words that can make the difference. They have for me and my clients, and I hope they will for you too. During the show, you'll get to learn about my guests' real-life experiences and the insights and lessons they've learned as they've navigated the resets in their personal and business lives, which you'll be able to leverage yourself. So let's start the show. Welcome back to Pause, Stop, Reset, the podcast where we explore the moments in life that lead to breakthroughs, growth, and transformation. Today, we're joined by Kobi Omenaka. He's worked as a chemical engineer before a big reset into digital marketing, podcasting, and so much more. He's a really interesting guy, a good guy, and you'll love him. Without further ado, Kobi, welcome to the show. Welcome to Pause, Stop, Reset.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure and an honor to be invited, and it's great to be here right now.
I'm really excited because we had sort of the links on the LinkedIn business flirting for a while. Like, who's this guy chatting? What's going on?
Is that what you call it, business flirting?
No, not normally. But there's like a fencing thing, right? It's like, who's this guy? Who's this guy? And then we got talking, and talking to you is a real pleasure. You're a really good guy. And I was really refreshed and also like blown away going, you've done that. This is awesome. And we're going to get into that today. So let's begin at the beginning. Some people listening, watching the show, they may have no idea who you are, what you do. Who are you today and what do you focus on today?
So today I'm a growth marketer and podcaster, and that's still hard to kind of define exactly which one I am. Aspiring to be both, enjoy podcasting the most, potentially. I guess that's the way to put it.
Bit of poetry there as well. I love that. That's cool. So growth marketer and podcaster. And obviously that's an area where you either listening going, I know exactly what he's talking about, or no idea. And we may get into that more in the show. Now, if you look back on your life up to today, what have been the biggest shifts and resets you've been through?
Yeah, I think the one thing that kind of is a bit pervasive is the fact my first career was, I was a chemical engineer, worked in oil and gas, as you correctly said in the intro. And that trajectory kind of came along from initially being at school, thinking about what I'm going to do at university, not really knowing. My parents definitely wanted me to go down the kind of doctor route, which is what my dad is a doctor. But I was also like, I kind of like the sciences, but I don't really want to be a doctor because that seems like a bit of a pain in the ass. You don't want doctors who think it's a pain in the ass. Trust me, guys.
My mum's a doctor and doctor-trained GPs. Having grown up with it, you sort of either go definitely or you go definitely not. It's like,
exactly. Then I really enjoyed the sciences. I really enjoyed kind of biology and chemistry, particularly when I was at school. But I didn't want to just be like, the thought of being in a lab, like pipetting stuff, didn't really get me excited either. And randomly I had this conversation with one of my friends on the school bus, and he said, well, be a chemical engineer, Kobi. And I was like, I don't know what that is, Ian. That was his name and is his name. And anyway, I went away and did some digging in. I was like, well, I could do this. It sounds quite interesting. But ultimately I chose my degree because I liked Sheffield University, and they had this, they had the chemical eng degree, and would let me go there, stay there for an extra year because I didn't do maths at A level, which would have meant I would have gone directly into my course. And I was like, oh, so I could stay at university for 5 years, the length of time a doctor would be, and have a good time, and come out of it with this degree, which people will think is quite fancy. Ultimately, though, I did my degree, I enjoyed it. Went into the industry, didn't enjoy it so much. I was quite good, but there's some people who just really kind of nail being a chemical engineer. But I enjoyed a lot of different aspects of it. I enjoyed the latter part when I worked in Norway in the oil and gas industry there. And I really loved the Norwegian vibe. That was just such a great way to live. And I feel that a lot of the world could take away some of the Scandinavian habits. And it's no coincidence. It's no coincidence that the hygge thing is becoming people more and more people talk about hygge and how Scandis are happy in various different ways. And I just think back to those like 3 years I spent there and just thought, it was blissful. Life was really easy. People looked out for each other. The government looked out for people, and it was lovely. It was cold, sure, but you just wear more layers. So when I came back to the UK, because my then girlfriend, now wife, was living in London, so we had a long distance relationship. Came back to the UK, I should say, before I go back to, sorry, I'm going on a bit of a spiral loop here. When I was doing my course in Norway, when I was working in Norway, I started a second master's degree in social media. And this was at the time the social media was Twitter and Facebook, and MySpace was on the decline. No one knew what it was, except I knew I was very interested in what it was. And I was on the side making websites and blogs and doing all this kind of and stuff, mainly about music. And when this course came into my orbit, I thought, this sounds really interesting. No idea what it was, no intention of making it a career. I just thought it was really interesting, and I think one pervasive thing about me is that I like learning a lot, and I'm continual, and hopefully will be a lifelong learner. So go back to Norway, come back to the UK to be with my girlfriend, now wife, and the oil and gas industry, after about a year being there, just tanked. Everyone in the company I was working at, a lot of people in the company I was working at, everyone lost their jobs, including myself. Happened across the industry, and instead of me thinking, holy shit, what do I need to do to find another job in this industry, I thought, oh, that's kind of a relief. I'm gonna maybe do something I find a bit more interesting. And this is when I pivoted into digital marketing, leaning back on that social media degree that I had, and started to work with charities, small businesses, often pro bono, mainly for testimonials and for the fun of it, really. But that wasn't going to sustain itself. Sorry, am I going on too long here? Is this okay still?
You're an expert podcaster. This is all fun, right? This is the nature of it, right?
This is right, yeah.
You can hear underneath the thread, though. It's like, I was doing this degree because a Ghana busted it might be interesting. Then I went to Norway. Then this other thing showed up. So I did this other master's course in my spare time. Yeah. It's sort of like, so you can sort of hear, like, you've grown up in the North, interesting family, gone to Norway, social media, and we haven't got into yet, like, the podcast with a large number of downloads that I have a sense also happened kind of by chance.
Well, this is why it's leading into the.
And we're getting to there, right? Yeah,
we're getting to there right now. It's the next chapter. I'm just going to turn that page over. So one thing I was very conscious of is that even though I've been working 10 years in a different degree and different industry, and I knew how to make websites, I knew how to do social media marketing, I hadn't had that explicit experience, which would help me get clients. Or if I started with a new company, I would have to be way down at the bottom of the ladder and work my way up. So what I did was I started a podcast, my first podcast, and the main aim of that was to engage and connect with the digital marketing community in London. And that was great. I got to meet a whole lot of people. I used to go to the networking sessions, go directly, make a beeline for the speakers, people in the panel, and say, hey, that was great. Do you want to be on my podcast? And I didn't realize it was a strategy until I think back to now, where a lot of these people became friends, mentors, gave me jobs, recommended me for things. And it's one of the reasons I really, really advocate for podcasting, because it's a great way to connect with people. It's a great, fantastic way to build authority and trust. And underpinning that is that it's really, really fun to do. And I think I don't say that enough. It's like, it's such a fun thing to do. And you can, maybe you don't find it fun, but
it's fun when you have a fun guest that you want to be talking to, right? I think many people go into this thing of, I've got to do it. Like, I know when I started, the guy that was around was going, you've got to do this and this and this, but it was much more the kind of do this to monetize thing. And the more I've got away from that and not worried about the technology side and other bits and pieces, because it's a very interesting space. There's the podcaster trying to beat Mr. Beast, which is a weird, fascinating game, back to, this world of the BBC produced podcasts or major media channels with $10 budgets for a season of 10 episodes versus a budget of 0 in your kitchen. And it's a very weird thing. And the best conversations are often those real ones, right? Like you said, you're clearly a shy person, he says, half joking, but you just went, hey, come on the podcast. And that ability to go out and meet people. I think, and when we spoke with sort of different P's of a pod, I wasn't thinking for podcasting, but also when I started, I was just saying, I've got a question, because Mr. Burden said ask questions, and you go and ask people questions and you talk. But it can be really fun. And I think that's where we're in a really interesting inflection point with the world today, because you and I know there's sort of this industry and everything. Anything that can be fun tends to become a business with an industry worth billions and an event and a showcase and teams. And it's like, time out, Tiger. Just let's go back to the fun stuff.
I think that's part of the reason I struggle with saying pivoting to full time. Hey, I'm making a podcast company and production company. I'm making podcasts for XYZ. I'm conscious of it sucking the fun out of what I do and what we do as a company, because at the moment we don't necessarily need the income from the podcasting, but I'd love to make more podcasts. So it's kind of a weird oxymoronic position I'm in a way.
And I'm going to drag you into it. How did you end up doing sort of the Wired podcast? That was one of the things I think that helped you have a big shift and reset. How did that come to be? Maybe you can touch on that for a second.
Yeah, so first podcast, Copestar Digital Podcast, got me a foundation, got me into loving making podcasts. The second podcast I did, which is still running, is Flixwatcher, which I do with my good friend who was on the film quiz team with back when I was in London. And there we just get a couple of guests on, and they pick films from Netflix that we have a chat about. And it's super simple, high level fun. In doing that, we just met so many people and got really ingratiated into the podcast industry, because we tend to reach out to podcasters and say, hey, come on our show, talk about your podcast, talk about a film, let's have a laugh. And just getting to know lots of other podcasters in the particularly in London, indie podcasters essentially as well. And one of these podcasters, we became really, really good friends with some of these guys. And one of these friends is Dave Corkery, who's now my host on The Wire Stripped. And also doing that, met Tom Wally, who's our main producer. So Tom is great. He's Twiggy. He's Huey Morgan's producer for his Six Music show. And, we just met these awesome people through podcasting. The Wire is my favorite TV show, and just through conversations with these two guys randomly, found out that they both love The Wire as well. And I was like, is there a TV show is there a podcast based on The Wire? And I found out that there was one or two, but they'd long since died and weren't any good.
The classic podcast dilemma. You start strong, and by episode 5, you're like, we're bored now, nothing's happening, we're out. Yeah.
And so we started this podcast, and we wanted to make sure that it's different to all the other after show podcasts. I think is the category name, where it's typically two guys in a cupboard talking about Game of Thrones. And we wanted to make sure it's different, so it wasn't just us espousing, going episode by episode and talk about what happened in the episode, and a breakdown, which is interesting, can be interesting, but wanted to have clear points of differentiation. So in our show, we spent a lot of time, even though we had no kind of background or industry insight, we spent a lot of time reaching out to cast, crew, creators of the show, and got their voices into the podcast. And that was really, really powerful, because these after shows never used to have that. They just used to have two voices, typically male, often quite difficult to tell them apart, because it tend to be two Americans from New York, whatever.
Yeah, on an audio platform, two voices going, I think this. No one knows what's going on. It's just gibberish. Yeah.
And we pulled out the show, which is layered, had lots of the clips in it, had lots of the voices for the cast in there, and it just, it kind of took off in a way we weren't expecting. Selfishly, I really just wanted to use it as an excuse to rewatch The Wire again, because the first time I watched it, I basically didn't do anything for that month apart from.
And you're sucked into the story. Watching it, what's going on? It was one of those shows, if you don't know The Wire, and it's really hard to imagine, because you and I are a similar age, right? But there's certain shows that took over our lives that nowadays kids, they don't know about X, Y, and Z at all, let alone the old days of tune in next week for the next update and next season, and before the binge watching of seasons. And I'm going to sort of fast track a bit. You ended up getting not 1 or 2 downloads, but significant download numbers, right? That was a really great show. And on the back of that, you've now done interesting websites for very well-known people, and this whole different thing. I can imagine the chemical engineer you going, that's never going to happen, right? It's kind of fun.
Yeah, if someone said you're going to be over there, I'd be like, I'm sure there's some kind of formula equation that might get me there, but I don't understand it right this second. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. But it wasn't more about it wasn't the downloads. It's more about the fun that me, Dave, and Tom were having making this one podcast and getting the feedback from it and thinking, we think the industry could do better in that respect. So we were like, let's do this.
And this energy from you is what I wanted to get on the show for the listeners, because there's a quality in talking to you I haven't seen for many people who are in growth marketing or podcasting or whatever it is. There's a different way about it where they forget the human bit, and it's that sort of fellow northerner bit. I have a southern voice, but it's sort of, we get on because we get on, and we're doing it because we like it, not because it makes $1 million. And a lot of the guys we know now in Dubai that have award-winning podcasts and growth marketing companies, it's like, well, why aren't you monetizing this? And why aren't you doing that? And it all becomes outcome fakers versus that internal bit. The best music, the best creative, you can't see probably, he's got guitars behind him. The best bit of creatives, sometimes there was a business brain behind it, but there was a love for something, there's a quality to it. And I also love the real relationships, these connections that have opened up for you. I'm going to move forward a little bit. So I like to talk about these 3 aspects of pausing, stopping, and resetting. I know you're a dad as well. You know, the pausing is just put that down. You can come back to it in a bit, right? It's like, we're going to stop editing for a while, have a pause, go for a walk, and then come back and do that again. The stopping is where you go, I'm out. I just no more five-a-side football, no more late kebabs they're finished with. And the reset is when you go, you know what, we're moving to Dubai, we're moving to Norway, I'm switching complete careers, right?
Yeah.
Which of those 3 do you find hardest, and why do you think that is?
I think one of my main challenges in life is that I like doing a lot of things. Jack of all trades.
I was picking up on this, right? You're sort of, I can do everything, anything, do. Yeah.
Have a go, get to the 80-20 kind of level of like understanding, and then pivot to the next thing. But it's often hard to kind of let go of like, I like doing this 2 nights a week, but also, I want to make sure I go to the cinema, spend time with the family, go to the XYZ, blah, 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 blah. And at one point you just kind of realize that's not sustainable when you have a kid who climbs into your bed at 4 o'clock at night and kicks you in the head and wakes you up. And
I love tap, yes.
Yeah. So stopping's hard, especially if you've, well, it's that kind of sunk cost fallacy of put so much time into a thing. I quite quickly realize if I don't like a thing, I'm not going to pursue it. So stopping early on is easy.
You're good at going, I'm out. No, not for me, not playing. But you're probably quite good at picking stuff up, right? So I'm guessing guitar. So you're quite a quick study, and you've got that engineering brain that gets process and system. And I love the clarity about this, and so clearly said. And it's so true, because we can end up doing lots of things, right? But just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Yeah.
And knowing when to go, you know what, do you have lots of hobbies that were like hobbies in the old days that are now sort of half businessy, half hobby? Like I could do a photo shoot. If you're not really what I do, but I can do the photos. I can edit the video. I could do this, build the website, do the SEO. And so much of what it seems to take to cut through today is this weird specialism. Or doggedly, that's what I do for so long. We've seen Charlie XCX getting all the awards. She's been at that game, not for a day or two, but for a very long time. Dad John being really supportive, but she's also been doing that work, doing the graft. Now, there's always exceptions. So I'm just curious, is that something you see with clients as well? They want to sort of fingers in pies? Or is that something that you sort of see just for you, as so to speak?
Different clients want different things. And that's one of the hardest things to kind of get to grips with. Main clients are in the growth marketing realm, and one of the biggest challenges, they bring me on and say, hey, we need to do X, we need to do Y, we need to A, we need to 1, 2, 3, we need to do 58, and we need to do 63. And you're like, well, there's not enough time in a day to even do X and Y, so we need to
And as they grow and you want to get more clients, it's sort of weird. There's no switching off. So are you good at like, it's a Friday night, 6 p.m. going family time? Or are you sort of permanently in brain activated mode, thinking about work and ideas and projects? And
at the moment, it's too much in there, persistently thinking about projects and ideas and work. And one thing I'd love to do this time next year is to be able to switch off and or do a 4-day week and make sure that and not working at the weekends or not thinking about work at the weekends. I think it's nearly impossible if you're running your own business in some way, shape or form. But it'd be great to get back to the stage where I was engineering as a chemical engineer, where it was 40 hours, no more, no less. And I was really good at getting there early, going for a run at lunchtime, going for a swim at lunchtime, really vegging out for that hour and still leaving at 4 o'clock. And then on the Friday, if you did your hours, you could leave at 12 o'clock. So that for me was perfect. I left the door, wasn't thinking about it any way, shape or form. And I'd go off and do my other, and that's why, I could do a lot of hobbies because my time was largely my own once I left the office. So it was great that way. But now it's, it has totally flipped in that my time isn't my own. I
think it's the thing that I experience, my clients experience, my friends experience, especially in the sort of, I'm going to say self-employed world, but it's this weird thing of work for yourself where there isn't that.
No.
And in the old days, you go, right, I'm clocking off. And there was still occasionally, especially you get more senior, you get the weird phone call, the odd pager message. You had pagers back then, boys and girls, faxes. But no, there was that thing of going, I'm out, I'm on holiday. In fact, one of my banking jobs, you had to switch off for 2 weeks, regulatory wise, right?
That's right. I know. Yeah, I worked in fintech for a while, and there were people once it got to a level where they literally cannot be contacted for those 2 weeks. And I thought that's quite nice, actually.
But the other side of it is, and this is where discernment of choosing where to focus, like with the podcasting, you didn't know the outcome, right? So if you'd gone, well, unless we get this result in 3 weeks, I'm stopping, you never get those magical opening things that open up. So it is it is a challenge. It's why we have these stories. And I hope you don't get what I had, which is the body went stop. I had the physical surgery, stomach surgery stuff. It was like, universe goes, time out now, Simon, you're stopping. Like, just can't do it anymore. And you just stop, right?
Well, I've had that. I had a knee operation 3 years ago, and there's pandemic, knee being a pain in the ass, kid, all happened at the same kind of time. And that's when I went from doing I don't like to call it exercise, but I was very active through till inactive for like 4 years. And it's in the last kind of year where I'm like getting back on the bike, running again. And it's very annoying that I'm running now and I'm like half as fast as I used to be.
I know we're young men, but this is also if you're in your 20s going, what are they talking about? You'll see, right? But it's so true. Lockdown definitely caused it. These other things happen. And I'm sorry you had the knee injury, but I'm glad you're in the different focus side. This is the life design side.
Yeah.
And maybe that is the answer to the next question, which is, what's the most important lesson you wish you could give your younger self, and why? It's one of those classic questions, right?
It is, yeah.
Sending back to you on the bus, what do you wish you could tell him?
I would say, look, just have a go at everything still. I wouldn't change that much. I'd say save a bit more money.
Yeah, especially if you're into gadgets and tech, it gets expensive.
Yeah, save a bit more money.
Yeah.
Feel free to quit things earlier. But I think I did that. What would I really tell myself to do differently? Well,
like what's the wisdom lesson? Like you've got a family, you're healthy, you're doing cool things. Like, this isn't as a problem. It's just a bit of going, you know what? If I'd learnt that earlier, it could have been cooler. You know what I mean?
Well, right now, so I guess it's a bit more of a practical thing. Maybe I was just half joking with the money thing, but now it's like, actually, we're going through like a remortgage, and it's happened now. So this might be a bit not that interesting, but it's the first time doing a remortgage, and I just assumed that it's a case of ringing up the bank saying, hey, what can you offer me? No, that's too much. I'll go to another one. But it's taken 3 months, and we like got it in place. We kind of started the motor rolling like the week before. So now we're like 2 months down the line, and we're spending like way more on our mortgage for these past 2 months, because I just generally didn't. I mean, I'm 45 years old. I just generally didn't realize it took that long.
And it doesn't used to, by the way. So this is sort of like not the banking regulatory thing.
Yeah.
It used to be quicker.
Right.
Things are taking a lot longer, from house sales to mortgages to loans. Everything that used to be a simple go and have a chat, there you go, no problem, sir, is now 3, 6, 12 months, if at best. And there's a couple of reasons why that is. But that lesson, by the way, is so valuable. The cash flow liquidity piece of the conversation. And it isn't what normally gets talked about, P&L and equity value and exits. It's like, how much cash can you get your hands on quickly if you need to at any point in time? Because weird stuff goes on that you least expect it.
I mean, I've got the situation now with our plumbing in our house. And it's like, I don't want to spend the money on the plumber. But then I woke up the other day and thought, look, if it's something really wrong, it's hundreds versus, hundreds to sort it out now versus thousands to sort it out later. And it just had that before, and I've ignored a leak in the kitchen. And I was like, that's just only a small leak. But when I opened up the cupboards underneath, it was properly rotten on the floor. And I just keep thinking, you notice it. I know it's a pain in the ass to ring the plumber, or pain in the ass to try and sort something out. But just don't ignore those little things.
Address it. Very, very true. I had it in London with the bath in a flat, and the bath, I thought a small leak. The flat below had a major problem, right? Yeah. But you don't see it. It's like, that's just it. No, but it's so wise advice, and it's also tricky, right? You're a creative individual. If somebody said to you, you do know if you and Simon bought a car park when you're 21 and rented out, you'll make money and cash flow, we'd have gone, yeah, no, or like fold underwear in a laundrette. You're like, yeah, no. So this balance point, and especially today where real mega success is not a couple $100,000, but $10 million can be a small number by some people. It's insane because $100,000 a year is top 1% income and then some, right? It's a whole weird scale, but no, really fascinating and very wise. And, you know, if your children are listening, your great grandchildren are listening, save cash. Businesses make cash and skills, right? And this is the reset bit. I know someone like you could hit in a new country tomorrow morning, and you've got skills and creativity and rapport skills and relationship skills. You'd find something to do and be valuable, right? There's that side. Love it. I'm a big believer that books and movies help me reset. Maybe not The Wire so much, whether it's Bucky or Columbo, Top Gun, you know, the old Karate Kid movies. What are some of the books and movies that have helped you on your journey, that help make a sort of change your life for the better?
I think so. I always say when someone asks me my favorite film, depending on the mood, Pulp Fiction is there definitely.
Fascinating movie, by the way.
Yeah,
and I'm curious how that lands in like 5-10 years with people. Because it was sort of a window that it was an interesting timed movie, right? When it came out, it was really different, really altering, and has rippled massively into cinema and the people and the stories, and very quirky. It's one of those standalone movies that is really quite fascinating.
I mean, it's just a masterpiece. It's what I think it came out once in '94. I should know this. So I didn't see it when in the cinema because I was too young. But when I got it out as soon as I could do on VHS, as it was then, guys, and was just literally blown away. And there's one of the first times that it wasn't an action film, it wasn't a comedy, it wasn't an animation, where I thought, oh, this, like the spoken word and how you say, because it wasn't, you know, there's a few bits of shooting with the guns and stuff.
No, it's real character and cleverness and wit, but not like I'm being funny now. It was sort of
real conversations. Yeah. And that was one, like, that was like a game changer for me in terms of actually we can tell story. It doesn't have to be fancy, quote unquote, but you build a character, tell the story properly. So I always loved that that's one of the reasons it stuck in it hit me at the right time, and it got me in a way that other films hadn't done previously. You know, I mean, Jurassic Park's still way up there, but that's like out and out romp, and that's just exciting from start to finish.
Yeah.
But then you scale that right down to a film that cost like 100th of the price of Jurassic Park, and it still hits you in the same way. And then on the flip side, now if my most recent favorite film is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and that is just like, that's a whole different direction where the story is augmented by what you're seeing on the screen in ways that I could never have comprehended, and still can't comprehend every time I watch it. It's just a visual masterpiece. So cinema just generally for me is amazing.
I'm the same. I used to be more of a book reader, and more the anime, the movies, and you can dip and dab and alter get different insights. And you're spot on. The technology and the craftsmanship can do stuff now that was not doable when you and I were kids, right? They could imagine it, but now they can go like this. And in 10 years time, there'll be some like, hey, make me this movie like this, and it'll come up with an imagery that's more creative than we can imagine. There'll be a whole process of curation and dancing with it, I think. But
one of my friends is he was the lead animator and is a BAFTA award-winning animator. So he did all of the animation. He was involved in the animation for all the Tobey Maguire and the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man films.
Yep.
And when Spider-Man, he wasn't involved in Spider-Man Into Spider-Verse, but he's telling me, he spoke to the animators there, and he was like, I think he just saw like a 5-minute clip of what it's going to look like. And he just turned to him and went, how are you doing this? Like, is this what it's going to be for the whole film? It's like, this is the film. And it's just like, I don't know.
This is not how we used to do this. This is not flat framed. No, it's the whole thing. It is quite fascinating. And that's going to happen more and more. And I love that. I know it sounds funny. You have a youthfulness to you that's quite rare in somebody that's done the bits and pieces you've done. Right. It's what I love for the music producers I know, the other guys I know in the creative industries, and also some teachers and very like physiotherapists. There's a quality of mischief and happiness and joy. So it's not like, it's not fair, I can't do it, but wow, this is cool. What else can we do? And that's quite fun. That's quite fun. We're coming up sort of the segueing into the sort of second half, the end of the show a little bit, not to the end, but beginning of the end. One of the things I love to look at is what helps you go through those reset times. So when you went through, losing the job, when you went through the challenging bits of growing a business, what's been the resource that sort of supports you through that? I get a sense your wife is a big part of your universe. Is it family? Is it friends? Is it the good book? Like what gets you through the challenging times?
A lot of it used to be, certainly my wife. When I lost a job in London, she just kind of sat down and said, maybe it's the time you do something you actually want to do. I was like, we
need to give her one of those thank yous and awards, right? That's not like, where's my money? It was, do you want to go get, that's lovely. That's to have that support and nudge in a positive way is great.
Yeah. And even though I knew that I wouldn't be earning as much as we would do engineering wise, I was just like, that's really appreciated that it was like, get on with it. The second thing, one thing, I'm a huge movie fan, and it's one of the things I missed a lot during the pandemic was getting into cinema, and saying in the cinema specifically, because I realized then, nowadays people talk about self-care and taking time out for yourself. I used to go to the cinema before the kid was born, before the pandemic. I'd happily go and on a Saturday and watch 3 films in a row.
I'm nodding away because did you have one of those magical cards with the unlimited? Yeah, and it changed the game because it was, you just go in and you can switch off, and for 2-3 hours you're there doing the thing.
No one could touch you, and you're watching hopefully what's an interesting story. If not, you've enjoyed quote unquote leaves. And when I first got one of those, I found myself at home watching Hollyoaks and thinking, well, let's just see what's in the cinema. And open the I think it's to the magazine there, you have to, or the newspaper, you have to see what was playing. And I just thought, well, I'll just go and watch this film. And 10 minutes down the road in the car, instead of watching Hollyoaks and watching whatever film, I just thought that was such a nice thing to do. A lot of people still look at you a bit weird if you're like a single person going to cinema by yourself.
Not everybody gets it, right? This is the whole thing. Different people recharge in different ways.
Yeah.
And I'd actually forgotten about it. I literally would get on the tube, go to Canary Wharf, go to Stratford, and have that, but still working, because you can still have your brain thinking and you can journal and you can go through things. And I'm a big believer in you get value from the movies, right? You see the experiences of relationships with creative idea people, you go, I've got an idea, and then you'd go back out, right? So I love that. That's a really awesome way of navigating both friends and the sort of quiet time for yourself in that container. Absolutely cool. I'm a big believer in sort of simple ideas. I know we talk a lot sometimes, right? We can yammer for hours. What's one simple idea, one thing they go, I listened to that guy on Simon's show yesterday. He said this, I love that. What's the one, like the nuggety takeaway that you want the world to know?
I guess I don't. No, life hacks, I guess, is the way. Not sure if they're simple.
It's okay. So what's that? What's the foundation? Foundational life hack then? What's that?
So there's 2 things that are prevalent. One is the less sugar I eat, the better I feel, and that's really tough because I've got a massive sweet tooth. But I just know that at the moment I'm not eating sugar and I feel like phenomenal. But I know that when it comes to Easter, I will eat all the chocolate.
I'm smiling away because you and I, I'm sitting there going cinema, and they get you on the way in, and you go, I'll have a fizzy drink, I'll have some sweets, and it's so, and you get down that roller coaster, and you're so right when you start eating healthier. And this isn't about anti-sugar, but there is a bit of, you and I have an era where my favorite movie was Charlie Chocolate Factory. I didn't realize it was paid for by a chocolate company until recently, right?
Was it actually paid for by a chocolate company?
There's a whole lot of backstory, and it was like a giant advert that wasn't an advert that was an advert, right? It's like, chocolate good, buy chocolate. This isn't, cancel that. Apples are good, eat apples, right? But it's sort of, no, but it's so true. So hack number 1, the less sugar you having, the better you feel. I love that. Very cool. What's number 2?
And the other one is, so again, foundational, not new, it's just sleep. It just affects me, maybe it just affects me more than when I was younger. And I watched the Oscars for the first time ever in my life, Sunday just gone, and yesterday was like terrible because it finished at 3:30, got up like 3 hours later, and the first hour or so in the day was good, but then the rest it just kind of ebbed away. But yeah, so just sleeping, no sugar.
This is the key to the man's success. And I think, and I'm curious whether growing up and in our earlier careers, we were more able to sort of burn the candle at both ends.
Oh, 100%.
And somehow now, sort of, like if you don't have good sleep and good rest and good hydration, there's like a hangover without the alcohol that lasts for a few days. You're not there super sharp.
That's it. And now it's just harder to nap as well. Because at the weekends, I'm sure I would definitely like put the TV on now and I'm going to full on fall asleep on the sofa for a couple of hours, and that would be great. Or I could just go to bed at 6 o'clock and no one would care if I was really that tired. So, but now there's the dependence, and now there's less opportunities to switch off from the job in the same way. So these are things I'm trying to carve back in the time as well. So 4 days a week to spend more time with the family and relax, but also get more sleep.
And in the creative, there's nothing worse than in a creative industry, the person you're dealing with isn't really switched on and all there. And that can be emotional burnout, physical burnout. When you actually have somebody go, no, I'm rested, I'm in the room, I'm ready to rock and roll, you can get so much more done quickly. Like, we cancelled yesterday for today. I was like, there's noise in the space, it's not going to work. Moved it on to today. Today, much better energy for me. And really grateful for that ability. And I think often when we're starting out on the entrepreneur journey, we sort of force our way through things. I don't want to miss out, so I'll stay out till 2 a.m. I'll watch that thing. And it's like, actually just self-care, self-worth is so important on this marathon that life is. So important.
I mean, the amount of times I've done what I think will be like an all-nighter to get the work done. And I've been there way past when I would normally go to bed and just thinking I'm not getting anywhere. I need to get to bed. And then even after like a few hours sleep, I wake up and I'm like, oh, that's what I need to do. And then it's done as soon as, within half an hour getting to the desk. So I've spent like 4 hours trying to battle through this challenge. A bit of sleep, change perspective. I'm like, okay, now let's do it now. Fine. Get out there.
Simple, I told you, simple ideas, right? This is the whole thing. And it's sometimes, if you're listening in going, yeah, I should really do that, put it in your diary, make it happen. Just give it a go, see what happens. Look, I've really enjoyed having you on. If you know any other friends and guests that should come on or come to mind, let us know. Is there anything you wished I'd asked you that I haven't asked you that I should be asking you right now? This is that question, right? Because occasionally it's like, you know what? There's some juice we haven't got to with you yet. And I know there's a lot more to get to know about you, but like, anything else you'd really wished I'd asked you we should explore a little bit?
The wrap-up, the self-wrap-up question.
Cool.
I guess. No, you touched upon the fact that I've got the guitars behind me, but this is, so I've been playing guitar for maybe 3 decades now. But when I say playing guitar loosely, I've had a guitar since I was 14. Okay. And it's only since just the pandemic where I was like, okay, let me actually learn how to play these things properly. So I guess it's not really a question, but it's just a kind of statement that a lot of times what I'm thinking is that it's never too late to start the thing. I'm not going to go on tour and fill out the Co-op Arena.
Not yet, but next year.
Maybe next year.
Big goal, Wembley, Ed Sheeran, Kobi, live from stage. No.
But it's not too late. It's never too late to do these things. And that's one thing I realized about, getting outside and running again. I thought, even though I'm way slower than I used to be, just get to that stage where you're enjoying being outside and running. Yeah. Don't worry about how fast you're going. So the same with guitar. Don't worry, I won't be able to out-shred Noel Gallagher. Not that he's a shredder type guitar person, but
yeah, there are some people, this is what they've done for a long time. And it's funny you bring it up, because I literally, for some reason, never played a guitar ever until a few years ago. So I've been around them. I had friends that played guitars, but I don't remember as a kid going, let me give that a go. I was like wood instruments and other stuff, like oboe and things, great. And then DJing. And it was really interesting going back to that beginner's mind. And the guitar is both logically illogical. If you don't know how to play guitar, do this as a sort of weird favor, go have a guitar lesson. And my top tip is have an electric guitar lesson, because I did the acoustic and you find out it's so much harder to do the acoustic than the electric, but it's good to know depending on your goals, right?
Yeah.
And that learning curve, and I wish to get Tony on. Tony's an amazing guy, the master guitar teacher, crazily cool dude. It was the learning journey with guitar isn't like other learning journeys. So when you learn to use Zoom today or CapCut or editing podcasts, there's sort of like a learning bit, right? You learn the buildings and you get better. Whereas actually you've got to do a lot of work to get a small improvement, and you don't just magically guess the hand things for the chords and the other bits and pieces. You can improve, but depends on the game. My friend Joe, who'll love you, he basically could play like three chords was in a band for 5 years. It's like, I could just play this. I can't play it, but da-da-da-da-dee. That's everything he played with the same 3 chords. And it's like, that's genius. But also, making a guitar sound half decent isn't that hard if you have a good guitar. Like actually making a sound, it's like, this is really easy. So there's a very weird, confusing bit between the Jimi Hendrix, the masterful guitar players. And, you know, this is an interesting, weird segue. Did you ever go past Waterloo in London, an embankment back in the day, and there was a guy playing a guitar horizontal, making cool sounds?
No, you mean like a laptop guitar specifically?
No, he had a guitar, but rather than playing it normal, he'd literally like do like side trance on the guitar that was completely mental echo reverbs, and would just sit there for hours making amazing music. And it was sort of the mastery of what can be done with these things and understanding it, I think, touches on something. So yeah, I love that beginner's mind. I also love you had 3 decades of it. And I'm guessing your level of I can't shred at Wembley is actually, you probably could, right? It's that weird.
No, I find, I'm definitely not beginner level, but it was a case of, we said before starting, it's like, oh, I wish I'd done this earlier. When because I clearly remember my parents saying, here's guitar, do you want lessons? I was like, no, I'm fine.
Interesting. Wow, that's coming out. I told you there's more juice. So they want, what was that about? They went, I don't want lessons, I'll do it myself. Was that kind of it?
Yeah, because I think a lot of the people who I looked up to guitar wise kind of taught themselves. Plus I didn't want, again, to suck the fun out of it. And I think whenever I've seen people, I'm thinking about the Wonder Years, for example, having music lessons, it always seemed like a torture. Like they've got to get to a lesson, that means got to do the practice. Whereas like I'd think, okay, I'll just learn how to play Wonderwall, or I'll learn how to play some Jimi Hendrix. It might take me forever, but I didn't have that context to think, actually, if I had a tutor and said, I want to learn Wonderwall, I want to learn Jimi Hendrix, they'd be able to get me there quicker, and it wouldn't necessarily be fun, but they'd just also be able to like give me the structure a bit more to say, now this is what you're playing, so it makes a bit more sense when you're playing it. Instead of when I did it, I just learned the thing and then instantly forgot it once I stopped playing. So now it's just giving the foundation again. It's building up that foundation. So I actually know where the C note is on the guitar, for example.
But you're touching on it. It's the fun factor, and again, it's like you're segueing. I remember when I first started playing, the pain in the fingers was unexpected. It was like nobody told me, and you sit there going, "Ouchie!" And I'm saying it lightly. No, it was agony pain because I did the classic Simon of right. I'll go do 6 hours, like blashed it out because that's not normally you do. You just sort of throw yourself at it. That's my approach. Sort of if I'm getting and then like you said earlier, if you're getting good, you carry on, and if not, you go, I quit.
Yeah.
Things like guitar and often mod technology, some of these things like podcasting, that isn't the journey. But I love the importance of fun. And I love that you've got that clarity about like, if I'm not enjoying it, why am I doing it? Because so many of us didn't. We did jobs, relationship, business deals that we sort of put up with. And it gets in the way of that clean space to grow and do new things. I've really enjoyed getting to know you a bit more. There's much more to know about this guy. If they want to learn more about you, find you, connect with you, watch your guitar albums, how do they find you online?
So I think I am unique in my name being Kobi Omenaka. So whenever I've typed in Kobi Omenaka into Google, it's only been me that's cropped up. So do that. Find me on LinkedIn, is probably where I spend the most of my time at the moment in social media, and come and say hello. Stalk
this man, find him. He's already out there doing some cool stuff, and you're going to get to know more about what he's up to in the future. And if they are into other podcasts, what's your favorite podcast of yours or others that they should be listening to at the moment?
Of mine specifically, as this goes out, so Flixwatcher is the one we talk about films on Netflix, and that is coming up to 400 episodes in August of this year, which is kind of insane. So I'd say go to that one because that's an easy to pick up one. We've got 300 odd episodes in the past. Find a film that you like and see what we say about it. Basically, go down the list, find a film you like, see what we say about it, and then let us know.
It's an absolute pleasure having you on the show today, Kobi. Thank you for coming on. That reminder about having some fun, about being open to stuff, and this sort of weird, the way life works, success spiral, they call it, things happening on a good side. Real reminders. And he said, less sugar, more sleep. I'll try and work on that one. It's working on that one. Thank you for being on Pause Stop Reset. That was the show, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now. Once again, I'm Simon Hedley. Thank you for listening to this episode of Pause Stop Reset, which is brought to you by the team at simonx.com and published by thesimpleidea.com. So you get maximum value, and to access all the bonuses and gifts, make sure to head to pause.reset.com, register and explore the portal. And if you're looking for great people, check out onesmartnetwork.com. If you've enjoyed the show, do give us a positive review, subscribe, and share this episode with friends. I can't wait to share our next episode with you. Till then, remember you can always choose to pause, stop, reset.